Hi guys, it's Ada here. It's been a rough start to this video. My eyebrows don't look good. It took me a while to set up and there was a bunch of complications, and we're finally settling in to start this video. And that perfectly defines what this video is going to be about, which is the disaster that was 2020. I figured to start off the new year, 2021, I figured I would reminisce on how my 2020 was while playing with some new makeup. So I have some new Dragon Beauty products that I got from their Pink Friday sale, which was like their Black Friday sale. And then I finally am going to be trying some Huda Beauty products. I saw Jackie Aina use the stick foundation. I was like, wow, she looks really good. And I've always wanted to try a stick foundation. So that's what we're going to do. And yeah, I want to welcome you guys to this channel. This is my first video ever. Some of you may know me from my last channel, which is now gone. She is in the past, but I was really missing YouTube and I was really missing making YouTube videos. So we're having a fresh start on this new channel and we're starting on a really high note, which is 2020. Without further ado, I say we just get into the makeup and start talking about the year that we had. For our first new product, I'm going to be trying the lavender color corrector, which it supposedly brightens like your dark spots, and you can also put it on top of the orange color corrector to brighten those areas. So I figured, why not try it? Nikita changed the packaging also. You cannot see. Why do I even bother? Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, 2020 has been one of the worst years of my life, and probably one of the worst years for a lot of people, but there has also been some really good moments, and it's been one of the best years of my life for like personal growth. Wow, I look crazy. It's definitely been one of the best years for myself, like for personal growth, and I feel like I'm the best I've ever been, and I feel like I did so much growing emotionally, physically, and mentally within the past year than I've done ever in my 19 years of life. And while this year has been really, really crappy and I would never want to relive it, I am grateful for the growth that I've experienced. And I genuinely don't think that would have been possible if lockdown hadn't happened, or if, you know, COVID didn't start in like mid-March. The majority of the year was really, really awful and garbage, and I would never want to relive it. But there are certain things that happened throughout the year, and as a whole, it was the best year for my personal growth. But we're gonna go from the beginning of the year till December. I'm filming this right before Christmas. It's December 23rd. And we're gonna recap what has happened in my personal life mainly. Honestly, the first 3 months, 2.5, 3 months of the year, like January to mid-March before COVID hit, were some of the best months of my life. Like, at the very beginning of the year, I got out of a really toxic friendship. Now, no hard feelings to this person. I really hope they're doing well. I really hope they are, you know, getting through these tough times like everyone else. But personally, me being in that situation and me being in that friendship, it was really toxic. There were so many signs. And so that was a great way to start the year off. It was like literally like the first or second week of January, we fell out. Our friendship ended. I have no hard feelings. I feel like it was what was best for both of us. We just weren't meant to be friends for, you know, super long. And I'm really grateful for what that person did for me and how they were there for me for the first 5 months of university. And I really appreciate how close we were in those 5 months. But that was how my year started. And then after that was, you know, second semester university of my first year. I was really enjoying it, and I was really getting close with my friends now, like Ellie and Alex. I didn't get close with McKenna until after quarantine started, when she was back in Bermuda. But I was really getting close with the people that lived in my building. So Ellie and Alex lived 2 floors above me. And for like the first semester, I was always in other res buildings with my other friends, so I didn't get super close with them. But second semester really brought us closer together. We hung out like 24/7 because we lived in the same building. That basically sums up the first 2.5 months of the year. It was just like school, similar lectures every day, tutorials, you know, exams, not really exams actually, midterms, essays, you know, hanging out with friends, doing schoolwork, like the daily, the typical university experience, I guess. And then mid-March hit, and it's honestly shocking, like looking back at like the beginning to the middle of March before like our school shut down, like we went into the first lockdown, how like we joked about COVID and how like it seemed like such a far away thing, like, oh, it was happening in China, it was happening in Wuhan, like we saw it on the news when we were in like the food place like near our res. They would always play the news, and like around that time they were playing like news from like China, like, oh my god, there's a surge of cases, and we were like, wow, that's crazy. Little did we know a week later they were gonna cancel classes and eventually kick us out of res. It's so surreal looking back at that time, being like, wow, like I hope everyone in China is okay, like this is insane. And now we're here 10 months later, and almost the end of December. Yeah, now it's foundation time. I'm gonna be trying the Huda Beauty. This is relatively new. It's the Faux Filter Foundation Stick. I really wanted to try her liquid foundation that came out like a year ago, I want to say, but I heard it was really fragranced, and I don't like fragrances. Like they don't really do anything to my skin. I just don't like them, and I want to try stick foundation anyway. So I'm gonna be using this, and I'm gonna be using foundation brush for the first time because I heard those work best with stick foundations, and this is the Rare Beauty foundation brush. I heard this is really good, and I love Selena Gomez, so I had no problem supporting her brand. I might be quiet for this part because I've never worn a stick foundation before, and I don't know how this is gonna go. I feel like it definitely blends out better with a beauty blender, maybe just because I know how to use it better. I didn't really like the way the foundation brush made it look. Also in January, like near the beginning, January 10th to be exact, was the day that I started estrogen, and my entire life changed the moment I started estrogen, and I have never felt more confident or more myself than I have this past year after starting estrogen, and we'll get a little bit more into that. But I think that's a big part of the reason why this year has like also been quite good for me and not just completely shit, is because I started estrogen and because I went through so many changes. And estrogen is also a big part of like all of the personal growth that I went through that I was talking about at the beginning of the video, like the physical, mental, emotional growth that I went through. A big part of why that happened is because I started estrogen, and I've never felt more confident. I've never felt more myself. Like a year ago, I guess, it's almost been a year since I've been on estrogen, I would have never worn, like I'm wearing a corset right now, I would have never worn shit like that. I have become a lot more confident in like wearing dresses. I just bought like 3 dresses the other day, and I love wearing dresses. I feel so confident in dresses now. A year ago, I would wear them like in the house and take pictures in them. I wouldn't post the pictures, and I also wouldn't go out in them. Okay, so this foundation is definitely super yellow, and you can clearly see, like if I was wearing like a sweater or like a long sleeve shirt or a shirt that went up to my neck, it wouldn't be that bad. And I had a feeling it was going to be super yellow, so I bought the Overachiever Concealer, which is really small, by the way. I thought it was going to be bigger, but I bought the Overachiever Concealer in a pink shade, which has pink undertones, because I had a feeling this was going to be too yellow. In real life, it doesn't look that bad. Like the shade match between my chest and my neck doesn't look super bad. On camera, though, she's looking a little rough. This looks crazy. So yes, I am a makeup guru, as you can tell. Okay. My under eyes are super bright, which I kind of love. I really like how this concealer looks in real life. I feel like this concealer on top of the liquid foundation, which is super full coverage, like basically the concealer, would be too dry because the liquid foundation I heard is matte, but because the stick foundation is more skin-like, I actually don't mind how it looks in real life. And honestly, on camera, I've looked worse. I've definitely looked worse. Now we're gonna get into the part of the makeup routine that I know how to do, and it's products that I've used many times before. The only other new products that I have are for lips, which is at the very end. So now we can actually dive into our discussion of how crappy this year was. Okay, so mid-March, I want to say March 13th is when my university decided to cancel classes, and then I think I moved out March 25th. That was the day that I left, and they gave us originally they said that they weren't going to kick us out, and then we were all like, how long is that gonna last? And it lasted maybe about 4 days. And then they were like, actually, the situation's getting worse. So we are gonna kick you out. You have a week to get out. The sooner the better. Did me and my friends listen to that? No, because we wanted to stay as long as we could. So we stayed until like the second last day, I wanna say, that you could stay. So we all left on the 25th. And then the last day you could leave was the 26th. And honestly, I spent that entire week crying. Like, I don't think there was not a single day that week that I didn't cry. And it was for a multitude of reasons. I was very insecure back then in March. And so I constantly cried about different things relating to myself. My friends know this. But there was one moment where me and my friends were in one of our rooms and we were listening to like sad music, like Sasha Sloan. Like, I love her music, but it's like all sad. And I can't remember a time where I've cried harder. Like, I cried so hard. I was laying on the bed. Both of my friends were like rubbing me, like consoling me by like trying to calm me down. And I was hyperventilating. Like, I couldn't breathe. I was just crying so hard for a multitude of reasons. But I was sad that I felt gypped because our year was cut short and I didn't get the full first year experience, when I should be lucky that I got like 80% of it. Now I know that, but back then I was so sad. We were all so sad and we felt so gypped and cheated. I was crying because I felt insecure about myself in so many different areas, which we'll get into next because I want to talk about that. And yeah, so I just completely broke down and I like completely started hyperventilating and I cried my heart out while really not being able to breathe. Like, I had to like gasp for air and they were trying to calm me down the best they could, and bless their hearts, I don't know if it really worked. I cried for so long too. It felt like it felt like I cried for ages. It felt like I cried for like an hour. So now we're getting into my love life, which is one of the main reasons I wanted to film like a get ready with me rant about 2020, is because I feel like my love life has not changed. Near the beginning of the year though, like right before I moved out of res, I met a guy who was, I think he was almost 10 years older than me. He was really nice, he was really sweet, but we wanted different things. So I ended that after like seeing him for 3 times. So I ended that and I have not met anyone since then. And I'm okay with that, which that's what I really want to talk about, is that I'm okay with it. A lot of the reasons I cried and I bawled my eyes out and I was upset during first year is because I was so obsessed with the thought of like having a boyfriend, being in love. I really thought I had such a deep thought that I believed that I was never gonna find love. Like every time like a talking stage failed or whatever, because I had a few of those during first year, I would cry and I would cry to my friends and they'd be like, you'll find someone, it's like due time. And I don't know why, but I was, jealous of my friends who did have relationships because I was insecure myself. And I was just so obsessed with the idea of a relationship and the idea of having like my other half or whatever, and like just experiencing that. Because another big reason I cried a lot during first year was because I felt like I didn't get to experience the typical high school teenage experience because I was a trans person. I had absolutely 0 talking stages throughout the majority of my high school career. And then I found Grindr, which we don't talk about. Please, if you are underage and you are a trans woman, a trans man, a gay man, a whatever, if you're part of the LGBTQ community, stay away from that app, please. You'll only end up getting hurt and making some bad decisions like I did. A big part of my growth that I have experienced this year is I have put more focus on myself and not so much focus on finding a boyfriend or finding a relationship. Honestly, like, and it's such a complicated topic for me to talk about because, there are still some days, obviously, everyone feels lonely every once in a while, and there's still some days where I might, be in my feels and put on some sad music and like cry because, I feel extra lonely that day. But it was like every day. I would cry in first year because I was upset that I didn't get to experience a typical teenage experience. I was upset that I didn't have a boyfriend. I was upset that, you know, it felt like everyone around me was talking to boys or had a boyfriend or, you know, was, you know, having one night stands even, which I'm not really about. But even I was jealous of those people because I felt like I had absolutely nothing. And even when my friends would be like, you know, someone will come eventually, like, you're literally 18. Like, I was so down in the dumps about the whole relationship subject that I really felt like I was never going to find love. Realistically, I'm 19 years old. I have so much of my life left to live. I have so much more to experience myself in the next few years with like surgeries and feeling more comfortable in my body than I do now. Like, realistically, a relationship is not my main priority now, and it should never be my main priority ever again. To bounce off of the topic of dating, there's the topic of sex, and I'm a virgin. I literally, like, I don't care. Like, I have never really felt pressured or felt, you know, the need to have sex and like not be a virgin anymore. There was one time recently in the past few months where I cried about it, and I cried because I was a virgin and some of my friends weren't. Realistically, it does not matter. When I was in grade 11 and I was getting really desperate, and I started feeling really desperate because, you know, that was when my friends, my two best friends in high school, started getting into relationships and talking to people, and I felt so left out. And that was when I discovered Grindr, and I was so dead set on losing my virginity to like a random person, because back then I was like, I don't care. Now here I am, what, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, and once again, I think virginity, you know, it really depends on the person. To me, virginity is not like a really big thing, but what is big to me is that I trust the person and I feel comfortable with the person, because there's a lot of people who use and abuse. And I was so ready to just throw that out to anyone from Grindr. I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad I never did. And like the most I did was like suck a dick. But parents, please don't watch this. Please. Please don't watch this. I'm so happy and grateful now that I didn't go that far, or I never let anyone take that from me. And I didn't just give it away to some random hookup off of Grindr who I probably would have never saw again. There every day of my life. I don't regret a lot, but I regret what I did in grade 11 and that phase that I went through. No, it's not grade 11. I've been mistaken. This is what happens when you try to block that shit out of your memory. It was, I want to say like my phase lasted like a month between like April and May in 2019. So I was actually in grade 12. It was like literally like a month or two before my graduation, and before I ended high school. And that was when I started getting desperate, which honestly, I'm surprised it didn't happen any earlier, because like I went like 3.5, almost all 4 years of high school being perfectly fine. And then my friends got boyfriends, and that's when I started feeling desperate, and I felt left out, and I felt like I'd been gypped and cheated all because I was trans. But if there's anything in my life that I regret, it's that. And I will regret it for the rest of my life, because I was a dumb teenager and I made some really stupid decisions, and it got me nowhere. Didn't make me feel any better than I did before I got Grindr. And I'm very glad that I was able to not feel desperate for basically my entire high school career, because I know there are some gay men or trans women that are on that app like 15 or 16, when they're like 15 or 16. Like, you're gonna get hurt. Please stay away from that app. If you're watching this video and you're in the closet or you're feeling desperate, please know it is not worth it. Earlier this year, I definitely I didn't feel desperate, but I definitely, you know, had that longing for a relationship. Like, oh my god, it would be so nice to have a boyfriend. I really want a boyfriend. I wonder what it feels like. And obviously there are still some days where I feel lonely, but definitely not as much as I did in first year. I think I cried almost every day in first year because of this topic. But, you know, it's very sparse now. Like, there are not many times where I will cry about this specific topic. I think a big part of why, you know, you know, sometimes I still have that longing for a relationship, like who doesn't, but I don't feel sad about it really anymore. And, you know, I don't resort to like apps like Grindr, is because I'm a lot more comfortable in myself, and I'm a lot more comfortable being alone. I'm a lot more comfortable being by myself, doing things by myself. Like, even when my friends aren't around, I'm so much more comfortable being alone. I used to rely a lot on like people, especially in first year. I used to rely being near people and hanging out, because I always felt like I was gonna get lost in my thoughts and just fall down a rabbit hole. And I feel like a lot of people may experience this, but especially over the last like month, when me and my friends have been going through midterms and finals and final projects and all that, we haven't had a lot of time to actually hang out. And because I live in a house with other students, but they're random people that I didn't know before I moved in, I've gotten a lot more comfortable being alone and doing things alone. I think that's super important. I don't think there's any more powerful human being than a confident person who is fine being alone and doing things alone. And I have realized over the past few months that it is okay. I do not need a boyfriend. Like, realistically, they will come when they come. And would it be nice to have a boyfriend? Yes. I am a lot more confident and comfortable in myself, which has made me a lot more comfortable and confident in being alone and not, you know, praying and feeling desperate for a relationship. And that's good. You shouldn't feel like a relationship is needed. Like, obviously it would be nice to have a relationship, as I was saying, but I no longer feel like I need it in order to survive. You know, I was a little dramatic in first year and like in grade 12. And the last topic that I want to talk about when it comes to relationships and sex is the topic of sex in and of itself, with like, you know, penetrative sex. Now, I am a trans woman. That is not a secret. I don't keep it a secret. It's something that I'm very open about, and I try to tell people my experiences in case there are other trans women out there that, you know, are dealing with things or have not come out yet. I talk about my experiences as a trans woman in order to help other trans people, or just LGBTQ people in general, or people in general, I should say. So there have been a few times throughout the past few months where I have really thought about my sexuality and who I'm attracted to. Obviously, I know I'm attracted to men. Obviously, I know I'm heterosexual. But when it comes to the topic of sex, I have, like, realistically, when I think about it, I have no interest in it. Like, so there have been a few times over the past few months where I thought that I might have been asexual. I am emotionally and physically attracted to men, but when it comes to like the act of sex, like, I'm not really sexually attracted to anyone. And I think there are reasons to this. Like, maybe once I've done some things and gone through some changes, I don't want to be too, you know, obvious about it, but maybe once I've gone through some changes that are supposed to happen within the next year, I have a feeling that once those changes happen, I would be more interested in sex. But with my current situation, I have no want for it. And that is another aspect of relationships. Like, sex to most people is a big part of the relationship. And I've talked to guys over the past few months. First off, what makes me nervous all the time is telling men that I'm trans, especially because I've started using Tinder over the past few months, and there, you know, when I used it like a year ago or a few months ago, there were some transphobic people on it, so I stopped using it. But my experience is now I'm using it currently. A lot of people are really nice. Like, a lot of the guys on there are really nice, at least the ones that I've interacted with. And actually, there have been a few guys who have, like, there was one guy who I didn't even tell him I was trans, but he brought it up, like, he knew, and he was interested in like what being trans was like. Like, he asked me about my life and like how it's been, and I was like flabbergasted. I didn't know guys like that existed. I was like, he wants to know more about my experience as being a trans woman. Like, it really flattered me. It really made me feel good. I've told a few guys on Tinder currently that I was trans, and honestly, their reactions have been pretty good, which I'm not used to, if I'm being honest. One of the guys was like, oh, that's cool, okay. And he also asked me about my experiences. There was another guy who was like, oh, it'll be a new experience for both of us. There was one guy that I met who was like, oh, I don't think I'm comfortable with that. that's perfectly fine. Not everyone is. But at least he didn't curse me out or block me or, you know, call me a slur. He respectfully said, I don't think I'm comfortable with that. And I was like, that's perfectly fine. Thank you for being respectful. And I'm not used to that. Like, I was like, what side of Tinder was I on before? Because I am not used to stuff like this. So it's a really nice change, and there's some really nice cute guys that I'm currently talking to, or that I have talked to. Actually, I did delete Tinder like a week ago because there's a guy that I'm talking to right now who I really like, and he's really nice. Have I told him I'm trans yet? No, but it is definitely something that I will do and I need to do before we meet, which might not be for a while because we're going into another lockdown. But for my safety and for the other person, because I respect the other person, I always tell people I'm trans before we meet in person, because one, I want to be safe. I don't want to be hate crimed, you know? So, and also two, it's just the respectful thing to do. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be the first thing that comes out of your mouth or the first thing that you type and tell someone when you start talking, but like, it definitely needs to happen before you meet. For your own safety, I'm talking to you, other trans people, for your own safety and for the respect of the other person, but specifically for your own safety, please. That was the main thing that I want to talk about in this video, was like my personal growth when it comes to like the idea of relationships and sex and dating, because my concept of it and my, you know, ideals have definitely changed over the past year, and my friends will know because I cried a lot in first year, like a lot, specifically over this topic, and like feeling lonely and feeling like I'm never gonna find love. I think the last main thing that I want to talk about in this video is school, specifically university, because these past 4 months have been so extremely garbage. They've been so extremely garbage and trash, and I've never performed so poorly in a semester of school. High school, I was like a straight A student. First year, I got mainly A's and a few B's, but nothing lower than a B minus. I checked my grades this morning because I just had my last exam yesterday, and for one class I got an A minus, which is very typical for me, at least very typical when I relate it to the first year of university. But my other class, there are only 2 of my 4 classes were updated for the final mark. My other class I got a C+, which I thought I was gonna do worse because my mark was a lot lower before the exam, but I got a C+, something that I don't think I've ever gotten in my high school career, or I didn't get anything lower than a B minus in first year university. And a big part of that is because school is completely online, at least for me. I feel like a big reason of why some of my marks dropped this semester is because everything felt optional. And I don't know why, maybe that's just me, but before the semester started, I had a schedule. There were lectures that were posted on the schedule, like at a lot of times, which made me believe that my lectures were going to be like on Zoom at a certain time. I did have 1 class out of my 5 classes that had 2 lectures a week that were from 2:30 to 3:30 on Zoom. Those were like the only lectures I went to. And even then, they were still recorded and posted if you missed it. All my 4 other classes, they had allotted times on my schedule, but realistically, when the semester started, they were just pre-recorded lectures that were updated at those times. So I had no incentive to be ready, like be on time. There was no classes that I needed to go to because everything was pre-recorded. The only classes that I had an allotted time for were my 3 tutorials, which had an allotted time every week. I'm the type of person that needs a routine and sticks to it. Like, I have woke up between 6 and 6:30 a.m. for the past 6 years. From the start of high school till now, 6 to 6:30 every day for 7 days a week. Mainly for school and sometimes for work, which was earlier usually. But for university, it's between 6 and 6:30, Monday to Sunday, because I stick to a routine. Like, I cannot function if my routine is off. The only time I usually sleep in a little bit or give myself like an extra hour or 2 is if I'm up late with my friends, like drinking or just hanging out, because, you know, I can't help it when I'm hungover. But if I sleep through an alarm, or if I wake up even like an hour late, like 7:30, I feel completely thrown off and my day is completely thrown off. And sometimes I wish I wasn't like this, but most of the time I'm really glad that I can stick to a routine. But I'm also the type of person that likes change. Welcome change. Unwelcome change, like when we were kicked out of res, is something I can't deal with very well at all. But welcome change is necessary to keep life interesting. And welcome change has not really been a thing the past 10 months because nothing really happens. And I think that's why this year I have had the constant urge to like completely change my like appearance. And I know that happens sometimes, like when someone goes through a breakup, they'll like get their hair done, get like a piercing, get a tattoo or whatever, and like change their appearance. The amount of times this year that I've felt the urge to do that, like I started this year with 1 ear piercing, now I have 6. I've gone through a few different hair colors this year. I'm gonna go off camera to do my lashes, and then I'll come back to do my lips because that's a new product, and then we'll end the video. And we'll talk a little bit about this channel and what's coming up, what kind of content I'll make. So yeah, I'll be right back. Alrighty guys, so I actually just decided to finish my entire face off camera. So I did lashes. The lipstick is from Dragon Beauty and it is in the shade Bad Bitch. Stunning color. I am absolutely in love with the way the foundation stick looks on me. I look a little bit dewy already, but I have a feeling like throughout the day it'll, you know, my natural oils will break through a little bit more and it'll be like the perfect finish for me. I love a dewy look, but dewy foundations don't usually have a lot of staying power. My favorite dewy foundation is the Anastasia one, but it doesn't stay very long. The concealer I surprisingly really love as well. I just need to use a lot less than I did in this video, but it was a learning curve. The powder I absolutely adore. My favorite powder I've ever used. My go-to powder for the past like 2 years has been the Maybelline powder, which probably still will be my go-to once I like run out of this, unless I'm willing to spend like $40 on a powder when the Maybelline is like 10. I don't really know if this color corrector did anything. The lavender, maybe we need to try it differently. I love the orange one though. I love the orange one. I've used it for like 2 years. I am pretty proud of myself for how much I've grown this year, like personally, emotionally, physically, mentally. I know the majority of everything else was really crappy, and you know, I'm really hoping that in due time things will go back to somewhat normal and we'll have some welcome change. There was a lot of unwelcome change this year in it. No. So yeah, that is all for today's video. I know this is a long one. I am just assuming this, like I have like over an hour footage and I don't edit very much because I like to keep in things. So this video will be pretty long. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching and you're a trooper. If you did enjoy this video, all my social medias will be in the description. My Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and Twitter will all be down there for you to follow. You can DM me on any of those platforms and give me ideas for YouTube videos, stuff that you want me to talk about, questions for a Q&A that I might do in the future, anything at all. Or if you just want to talk, my DMs are always open. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for sticking around and watching this entire video if you did. Or, you know, if you're not here, I'm still going to say thank you for even clicking on the video. So yeah, please leave a like, subscribe. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.